Hello there everyone, look at this. I'm in the incredible company of two Greeks of a very different kind but very much related to each other. Today we have a different video than usual. We're going to talk about Greek culture because I know that many of you are Greek or are interested in Greek things. So first things first, who are you guys? Start here.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
I am Dora. I'm Greek. I'm a doctor. I live in Athens and I've lived abroad for 6 months in Austria, Vienna.
And what about here?
I am Fani. I am Dora's twin, actually, although we don't look alike at all. And I have been living in Edinburgh for 2 years. Before that, I have been living in Athens all my life. And I've studied literature. I finished my master's in literature and modernity. And now I'm working in climate communications.
All right, so yeah, I have Greeks for you people. So yeah, and they're very happily here. Some of them, you know,
Without our will.
Yeah, the mascots of the channel. Yeah, and you came willingly. Come on, like it didn't.
He fed us, that's why we came.
Well, yes, you need to bribe them somehow to be here. But this time we thought of creating maybe a series. I don't know. I was how to say.
Yeah.
I was tempted with that idea earlier by you, Fanny. But this time we want to focus on different cultural aspects because we live in the UK currently. Dora lives in Athens, so we have an interesting contrast between two Greeks that have very different personalities on the one hand,
yes,
but also very different outlooks in terms of ways of seeing life or culture or the things that you think belong to the Greeks the most. So we would like to start with a topic that is very close to everyone, I would say, which is human relationships. And I'm not talking, the couples and all the lovely feelings or whatever, but more familiar things, like, for instance, family relationships and friends. Funny, since you live in the UK and are Greek, proudly Greek, I think.
Couldn't be more.
Couldn't be more proud, okay. What kind of differences you notice from both cultures living here?
Okay, so at first, like the first thing that I noticed is that I feel like within the family, the bonds within the family and within family and the circle of relatives are much more close when it comes to Greece compared to here. That doesn't mean that there's less love or anything like that, but they have a very different way of showing affection and of connecting to each other. I could feel, because I have had relationships and also friendships with people that are born and raised here, they're kind of more formal in their communication. And there is the kind of respect that they would not, for example, the kids would never raise their voices or shout at their parents, even if they reach the age of, let's say, I don't know, mid-20s. Whereas, for example, in Greece, that is super different.
So you shout at your parents? So do you mean that she shouts at the parents or
both of us together? And for example, with my boyfriend, we whenever he hears me and Dora and my mom speak on a video call, he gets so stressed. He's like, what are you doing? Are you arguing? And I have always to explain to him, no, this is just us having a heated conversation or a heated argument, or even just talking sometimes. Whereas when I exist in a situation with him and his family, the kids of the family never say something against their parents, even if they think
it's forbidden.
It's just they're not gonna bring it up, and that makes them not have a lot of heated conversations within the family context.
Oh, okay.
For example, about politics and people have told me that it's not just my observation, but people have told me that live here and have been raised here that they tend not to have heated conversations.
They avoid the issues.
Yeah. For example, no politics or no heated conversation on the family table that we hear a lot as a phrase.
Yeah.
But in Greece that doesn't happen. We are all in. No matter the setting. It's family table, dinner table, whatever, wherever, bathroom.
What kind of conversations could be happening in the bathroom? I'm intrigued, but don't tell me. But
Yeah, that's a very heated one. The way that you put the toilet paper.
Oh yeah, I have very strong opinions on that.
See?
Yeah. That's koloharto in Greek. If you didn't know.
Χαρτί τουαλέτας.
Χαρτί toilettes. No Greek I've met has said that ever to me. They all say koloharto. It's a beautiful. I know you know, but it's a beautiful phrase. Very descriptive. You know. You have no doubts what it is. Yeah, I'm gonna put it maybe in the edition so you can read it and guess what it means. What about you, Dora?
No, I think one aspect that really makes an impression on me when it comes to family relationships in Greece is the way that some relatives are entitled to have an opinion in their life. And that kind of bothers me. Like, that's an aspect of the tight-knit connections that I don't really enjoy.
Yeah.
Like downside.
Yeah, I like to share, and it's nice to share, but when you have the feeling that the other might have like an opinion, or
A very strong opinion, very strong. Not just an opinion.
yes, or even like discuss about it without you in front, or like then call your mother and tell her, oh, you know, like Fani does that, or take care of that. And it's an aspect that I don't really enjoy.
Particularly if you live with like members of the family in the same household, the fact that you live with them makes them feel sometimes entitled to like tell you, like how do you say, like try to control like aspects of like life, just because you
all
live
aspects.
in surroundings. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah. So it's
And what about the other way around? Like, do you feel entitled to comment on your parents' or relatives' lives?
Yes.
So it's a fair exchange then, like.
Yes. So I think that's like the equality, that you are an adult versus an adult.
Yeah.
And you're not like the parent-kids relationship still.
Okay.
Exactly.
Like Fanny mentioned. But when you start discussing, then they may say, I have more experience than you, so...
Yeah. But that is like a very interesting like pass for me, because I wanted to say that the whole thing is based in the fact that here is a parent-kid, very distinctive, like definite relationship, a parent-kid relationship, whereas in Greece I feel like the more we grow up, it evolves into a kind of like friend with friend relationship. Particularly, for example, that we now are like just a mom and like her two daughters. We have like the feeling as like three best friends a lot, like three sisters. And I have seen that like in other contexts with like Greek people that I have been discussing. And for example, you know, like common friends that we have and stuff. So that also extends in the way that we will discuss financial things in the family. So for example, like we share, like she shares everything with us because she always says that we need to know, and we need to like and at some points we take like common decisions now that we have like reached this age, whereas here it's like very different. For example, I've heard like people buying their kids cars but without asking them like what car do you want, or like even the color, or like, you know, giving them choice, and the kids are like, you know, he bought me a car, I'm super grateful, I'm not gonna like ask anything more because that would be ungrateful.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so entitlement. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, well, it's very interesting because, well, I also live in the UK, and some of you may know from the channel, I'm from Latin America, from Chile. Yes. I always have this theory that Chile and Greece are two, you know, bros separated. Yes, bros separated at birth. We have so many things in common, like the sense of humor and everything, which may explain.
A separate video.
Yeah. We will. I mean, yeah, we better do. But yeah, so maybe that's why I have so many Greek friends, and I don't know. It's very easy for me to make Greek acquaintance because the sense of humor is similar, etc.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, we also perceive these differences in the UK in terms of closeness, I would say. Closeness, and I think where I come from, at least, it varies a lot depending on social class. Let's say how people relate to each other. I would say the upper classes in Chile are more European-like or more closer to the way the UK behaves. As you were saying, financially, for instance, there's like a lot of this planning of legacy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The rest, just trying to live, either survive or just like live around with the means you have, and that's it. But a big contrast would be that we focus a lot on enjoying life to some extent, which is something that I have struggled to see in a definite way, at least in this culture, in Britain in this case, but I think it applies also to other English-speaking countries. And I think Greeks a lot to focus on enjoying in different ways. I'm not saying that just throw money out the window, but having a moment in the day, for instance, in which you're enjoying something. Normally it's a coffee, or meeting with a friend. It's a very intentional time for enjoyment of some kind.
I have to say, because I've studied literature, and so I studied the history of the English culture a lot and the American culture in my bachelor's years, and we were taught back then about how the whole this thing that we're discussing has a lot to do with Protestant ethics, and how the whole modern English culture was established, and how the fact that if you were considered as hard work was considered a value, putting hard work before pleasure was considered a value.
Yeah. I mean,
the utmost value that
you need to earn heaven also.
Yes, exactly.
Through your work.
So it was was actually became the basis of an entire society. Whereas, you can also because you're an expert in these things, but ancient Greece evolved into the ages, evolved very differently.
Yes.
But also for me, I don't know why, but it always has to do with also the weather conditions, because even before the establishment,
we are in Scotland, okay? So that's why we are having a blanket. A blanket here because it's cold.
Yeah. Dora wants her legs to show, so
being called out now.
But for me, I think that why was Protestant culture caught ground here, and grew roots, and why there was a very different kind of culture and civilization that grew up in Greece, and always comes to the how do we say, the circumstance, the weather circumstance, the geomorphology, and that plays a huge role, I think. Not in a cliche way, Greeks get lazy because they see the sun all the time and they just want to go out. That's a lie. Not in that kind of superficial way.
Yeah.
And it's also a controversial topic still in Greece because, for example, now I'm choosing a specialty. So different specialties in medicine have different lifestyles.
Yeah.
And a lot of people now tend to choose specialties that favor a life-work balance. So even in Greece that they enjoy free time, there is a tendency now for that to be more and more important for people. Whereas older generations, they might say that they have worked harder and they found enjoyment. Even Greeks, they say that they found enjoyment in working harder and finding making the means. And for us, that has shifted in Greece.
That's super interesting.
But shifted in what sense? In which generation is doing what? Your generation is trying to enjoy more?
Our parents' generations worked a bit harder, I would say.
I mean, they had to also, after a war and everything.
Yes,
so it's
yes.
You have needs, let's say.
But sometimes I think that our generation is working harder now because we the salaries are so much lower and because we can't afford homes anymore.
Yeah. Well, also what do we mean when we say working hard also, right?
That's
because the kind of working hard of the previous generation was we have nothing, we have to build from scratch.
Yes, exactly.
Ours is more we need to work several hours in order to make a living wage.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of not having free time.
It's a different hard.
Yes, it's a different kind of stress.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, I would say that we value a lot, like that, and that's something that I have also struggled very much here. The concept of the free time and how and what you choose to do, because here, many people that arrive from like non-English speaking countries find, and yeah, you can tell. For example, when I was coming here and I saw that the pattern, when you leave university and you're outside that bubble, the pattern of work is a 9 to 5 pattern of work is you commute 2 hours, so after like the 8-hour day you come home and you're quite exhausted and you have to cook, and then there's not that many more hours in the day to like do your things, and then you have to sleep early so that you can be functional at your job that starts early in the next day. So I could see, for example, you know, that people were choosing to like sit indoors and like watch TV, and that is like something very, and even like in the week they weren't, you know, going out a lot with friends, and they were choosing to do just that in just like the weekend, like a Saturday night. Whereas in Greece that's very different. We feel very we would feel very constricted if that happened in Greece. We want to have like the time to go out even within the week, or the time to like life after work is like super important.
Yeah, like mandatory.
Yeah, mandatory.
I even noticed that you go to bed very late just to have that time, and then you are.
Events bedtime procrastination is sky high.
Yeah, leave a comment if you are one of those. I am for sure.
Same.
Yeah, went to
I
bed
knew that you were like.
I went to bed at 4 last night because of this. Like, I work in the evening, so of course after that, and I want to. I need it, otherwise it will. No. Like I waste a day.
But what do you think about that? Like, how did you struggle with that?
Well, I came here to study, so it's not that I just jumped into the working environment. I'm working now, but it's also a part-time job, so it's not that I see this pressure, but I notice it in the language. For instance, that you tell me if in Greece this happens, but for sure in Chile it does not. But many people describe a good day as a productive day. They call it productive. Like if you have been productive during your day or during your endeavors or whatever, then that means that you're doing great, or you had a great day.
Yes.
Where I come from, at least in the context I was raised, no one would say, "Oh, maybe you can have a productive day. That's good, okay." But you wouldn't show off that you had a productive day. It would be more like, okay, you worked hard, but now what? You know, like, are you doing some of the important things? Are you seeing your family? Are you seeing your friends? Are you doing something fun? Are you doing something for your own enjoyment? And again, I get from the faces that, again, Chile and Greece, two siblings separated on both.
It's so true, because I remember I'm asking people, still I get like confused about, I ask people, how has your day been, or how was your day yesterday? Mm-hmm. And they respond, the English speaking people that are here, they respond with what they did at their work. But that's like not what interests me the least, but I'm waiting to hear like other things. What about your life? But they say like they define it with the things that they achieved at work. Like today I did that, I did that.
That's super interesting. Like for instance, when I've been asked those questions, and I, you know, in the process of doing a PhD and etc., the PhD details I always left for the last bit, because I mean they're stressful, but also they concern only me. I understand more the nuances of the problems I'm having. I don't know if I'll be able to describe them satisfactorily to others. But then there are other topics that I'm more interested in. And then like, okay, but you as a human being, how are you doing? And it's a very literal question.
That gives me a great pass, because we were...
A great pass?
A great... How do we go say that?
No, but I love that. I know. Well, it's also in Plato, that expression. And in one of the dialogues that one of the sophists gives like a pass with the ball
to
the other.
Things alike.
The sophists and you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you'll be too proud with those people. But I wouldn't be surprised.
What did you want to say?
No, I forgot.
Okay.
That's fine. Just interrupt or give me an elbow. Like we don't shut up. So it's very hard to make us shut up.
But actually, because before the video started, we were talking about the ways that people bond here.
Yeah.
And that is a very interesting thing, because when you say that like people talk about their work, that is a way I have found that is a way for like British people or not English speaking people to bond, because that's a difference. In Greece we talk about, you know, like we bond by talking about deep stuff. about talking about our relationships, our personal lives,
Same.
our friendships, everything. But when it comes here, like people find comfort and convenience in establishing communication by talking about their work, which obviously like positions you like in a particular.
I think in Greece, if you talk a lot about your work with strangers, it's a way like to connect and talk, but not be vulnerable at all.
Yeah.
That would be the feeling that I would get.
Yeah. And vulnerability is what creates closeness. Take notes.
Yes.
If you're not vulnerable with anyone, then you're not creating connection with anyone. It's just a parenthesis.
And if you're Greek, if you're not able to swear with everyone, that also doesn't generate.
That's also the same in Chile. Like, I work in tourism now, and I bump into Chilean tourists, and I describe Chilean culture when it's relevant, when walking or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, we're very fond of vulgarities or swearing,
because
and then
it creates the closeness.
And the tourists are like, oh come on, how are you? Saying these things about our culture. Wait. And then I say one phrase, and they reply with a vulgarity, and it's like, there it is.
Yes.
There it is. Like,
it's very interesting because Nikos, we have like a common friend, Nikos, and when he first met my boyfriend, who was like English, Scottish.
Careful.
And at first, when he was trying to, they were kind of like in the initial stages of like getting to know each other. And at one point, Nikos called him like Malaka or called him something else, like a swear word. But Jamie got very confused because he thought that he was like, not offending him, but he was like,
insulting.
What did he mean? Yeah. And I said, no, he was like, he felt comfortable enough to say to you that is super good. This is a reward. I didn't know.
Yeah, wear it like a medal.
Yeah. I am Malaka. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, you have this saying also that's the surname of all Greeks, I think.
I didn't.
Yeah, didn't no, they have we all share the same surname, Malaga.
Yes, but
you can say that to any Greek.
But actually, like, have you what is your experience with struggling with bonding over talking here?
It's always a difficulty because people here clearly don't bond in conversation, especially when you're meeting someone. That's normal, but
they bond over time. Like, it takes them a lot of time.
Yeah, but also again, we're talking a lot about things that in our cultures are like the things that we consider normal or whatever, our preferred way.
Exactly.
But I've got to learn also the other side from the Brits, in which things that are not said or the subtleties in the silences they share, that's what creates the bond for them. Whereas we are like we touch, and we we want this strong, intense connection of that kind. Here's the complete opposite. So it's not that they don't connect, right? But it's in a way that if you're not aware that they do this, you will think that they do not connect at all. And that would be unfair to say. We're all humans, we all crave connection.
And it's also the something that I actually find super interesting is how they can bond in times that you least expect to, and they can say something like very small, but they mean a lot of things. Yeah,
and that is like a bomb of meaning. Which is beautiful.
Like they have these bombs of meaning interspersed into moments.
Yeah, it reminded me of, I don't know if it exists still, if you can find it on YouTube, but there's a conversation of Sir David Attenborough with the late Queen Elizabeth II, and they're walking on a garden, and she mentions that she will die someday, and then I think Attenborough says, but look at these flowers, aren't they beautiful? But he's just receiving the reflection she had, and then deviating the topic into something like, I acknowledge what you said. It is a concern indeed. We're grateful for having shared this lifetime with you, but then let's look at nature now. It's a different kind of beauty.
That is another super interesting thing, how they can, because I don't want to say they are more polite. Obviously there is that kind of stereotype, all British people are super polite, and don't get me wrong, I have been seeing that a lot here from the moment I step foot. But I wouldn't say that Greeks are not polite, but because we are very intense, sometimes the most. Dora, are you intense?
I can be.
Like, I got scared with it. Like, I can't be. Don't try me. Like,
Let's ask our mother if she's intense. Mom, are you listening? We sent you big kisses. Dora's like...
no kisses from Dora, but still.
No kisses
She
from
loves you. She loves you.
The fact that because we are intense, sometimes we can get into misunderstandings between ourselves. Whereas here it's interesting how people, because they care very much about what they say, to be like very precise and to keep the face, as we were saying.
Okay.
They have a way to argue that is very interesting and...
Oh, yeah, it's under the surface. Like, if you're not aware, you will not notice that they were fighting.
Yes.
Mm.
And they will be over something that is trivial, but it's conveying all the meaning of the things that are hidden. I never get them. So if they've been insulting me, I don't notice. But so I doubt it though. But still.
You doubt that they are insulting you? Or
No. I doubt that I would notice. So if I don't notice, well, no problem.
Well, that's a good. Yeah, that's what I was.
It's a good problem to have. But yeah.
What about you that you have lived like in Austria, for example?
Yeah, but about what aspect?
About in terms of like arguments and stuff, like how, because it's not English speaking, but they are like, it's like Western.
Yeah, but it's very Western,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I majorly spend time with very young people,
Right.
young Germans. So it wasn't very hard for us like to connect or discuss politics. They were very open.
Yeah, I mean, new generations tend to be
Yes.
more open. So.
And they were willing to discuss like controversial topics, and I would say that they enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
Would you like say the same that they do that with their families too, for example?
Many of them, yes.
You're like,
Because I've never lived in Europe, so it's interesting because I went in
But
apart from Greece.
and they took proud from that. Like they were very proud that they enjoyed like debates.
Mm-hmm.
But did they get on like were they becoming intense in debates? Or
not
was it
as
kind of
easily,
like
not as
very-
easily. Or
Yeah.
you could sense that there was a stress when the situation would be.
But no one was throwing anything at you or something on the floor,
Front
like
tables.
Yeah.
like
no.
lifting the table. Like.
No, but I would say that's nice because like Greeks can tend to also like be as intense as to the conversation not being productive from the center point onwards. That's probably
A lot of Greeks.
yes.
Yeah. Some not. Yeah.
Well, the last thing I would like to discuss with both of you is about when we were preparing for this over lunch, was the dating culture, which is like a huge topic, and in which I also have like lots of cultural differences with the English-speaking world because. As I discovered talking to these two before recording, in Chile, I'm not sure the other Latin American countries, but I think they will relate to some extent. The concept of going on a date as an institution for getting to know someone, I don't think we do it. And I've talked to several Chileans and they tend to agree with me. Normally the date is something you do when you already have a partner. And you go on a date with the partner you have.
Yes.
But here it's like, oh, I'm going on a first date.
Yes.
And that's like a social institution in which normally you dress up, whatever, you do something fun together, cinema.
It's like
Plan, there's
organization.
planning, there's expectations, there's
Yes.
steps, not do certain amount of things
There are
before
particular
date number
guidelines.
3, let's say.
Yeah.
There are lots of guidelines for that, and that concept for me was very, very foreign arriving here. It's like, because I can go out with someone and it could be for a coffee or whatever. For some people that can be a date. For me it was like just we went for a tea, coffee, whatever. And
Yes.
but it happened to me at a long time ago that I went for a coffee and the other person thought it was a date. It was like, right, so
Did
yeah.
they tell you? Like, how did you discover that the person thought?
And she wanted to kiss me and I didn't want to.
Uh,
So yeah, so it was like
Oh,
very awkward.
Right, that's interesting. That's super interesting. interesting because
Yeah.
it has to do with like expectations,
Yeah, of course.
different perceptions of reality
Yeah.
at this point.
But in Chile, for instance, the way most people become a couple is that you have a group of friends, you get to know them very deeply, and at some point, you know, feelings arise between two of them in particular, and then
But
okay.
can you not meet someone like outside the group of friends? Like let's say,
I mean, of
meet
course.
someone in an activity.
You
And,
can.
like say,
you,
go out for
you
coffee.
can, but then you can invite them to do something.
Yes.
Could be with more friends, or it could be a more relaxed kind of activity, and not this institution of like we're going on a first date.
Oh, and we
Yes.
sit opposite each other in a restaurant, and the stress. Yeah.
Yeah, also like in Greece it will be more common if you're in a workplace and you meet someone to say a very relaxed activity like let's grab like beer afterwards or let's lunch, something small so to get to know the other. And I think that in another setting or in another country that would be considered as like minimum effort.
Yeah.
Whereas in Greece it's just like
Or some other countries, not even a date.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
qualify
yeah.
for that at all.
Yeah, but that like what Dora said is like super true because I have faced that when like once I was going somewhere with someone and another friend of mine who is British told me, "Oh, you're just going like for like just a beer after work. That's like no, that's a red flag. You shouldn't." And he was like, "You shouldn't go out because this means that he hasn't put effort into like planning something." And it was genuinely like an advice of like don't bother with that person.
Waste of time.
Yeah, but for example, for me, first of all, I have noticed the exact same thing. I would say that for Greeks, if like that happened, it would be we would consider it very constricting because if you do it like organically, not that the one thing is right and the other thing is wrong, obviously, then it has a lot of parameters. Yeah.
There are many ways of experiencing life.
Yes,
So,
exactly. But it would be constricting in terms of like it's a new circumstance, and if you set a premise beforehand, you set the context, and the two people have to behave in that particular context, and they have to like abide by particular rules. Whereas if you don't clarify, if you don't like specify, it could go the way that it could go to any direction.
Yeah.
And that is very like liberating and freeing. And let's be honest, like when you meet someone first and you go out on a first, you know, to spend time with them for the first time, it's already a bit, you know, a bit stressful at the start. A bit like, let's see what I'm going to do.
Yeah, because you don't know what you're gonna find.
If for me, if I place also the dating like thing on top, it makes me more stressed.
It's more difficult to be yourself also.
Yes, it's as if I'm like going through, I don't know, like an interview or so.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're applying.
Yes.
Yeah, for me also a friend of mine, a best friend of mine, a boy, he said that when he feels that the other person has like expectations and that's palpable, for him it's a turn off, like he suddenly like freezes or it's a bit...
Yeah, for many people it could be that too.
Yeah.
Because
And
like,
Greek
okay.
guys have an issue with expectations.
Ooh,
you know, like
shots
they
fired.
get like
I'm meeting someone with expectations.
Yes, very scared if like the other person, puts.
Why?
I think that has to do with a lot of stereotypes nowadays.
Like what?
Like
I don't know.
I would assume
Tell
that
us.
this is a stereotype that comes from way back, a long time ago, that like when girls seem to be more into relationship, the guys like understand us.
They want marriage and kids.
Yes, they want marriage or
They want to trap.
and this seems
Yes.
It's a trap to go with a
and they
Greek
feel
girl.
more anxious. No.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Was that
Nothing could be further from the truth.
I'm gonna put a disclaimer there. Like this, that go very fast in text. Okay, something very quick. I don't know where I will put this on the video. It's just an interruption. Dora had a great point about the dating stuff.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, so I want to say that Greeks weren't used in that idea of a first date, and the first times that we were introduced to that like model was with Tinder or the new dating apps.
In the same in Chile also.
Yes, because before it would be way casual or like meeting over friends, and that was the first time that the Greeks like had to plan a proper first date. And I think this shows that these apps were designed from like the perspective and the mentality of maybe Central Europeans or,
Mhm.
like,
Or Americans.
the
Or, yeah.
Americans' way of dating.
Yeah.
And it has been brought now.
And it got like slowly, we can see that it's getting like seeped into
Yes.
the practices, like the dating practices.
And in Greece we say that when we spot like two people that are in a restaurant or somewhere and they seem not to have bonded very well, we always say, oh, they must be from Tinder, because otherwise that's not a setting that you would usually watch. Like
Yeah.
people.
I've never
Because
used them
it would be
myself.
like in a friend group, you know, like
Yeah,
the initial awkward
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah, that's in Chile. Like I have a cousin, a relative who got married from someone he met through Tinder,
Mhm.
but I have no personal experience using them. I'm more the old school way.
Mhm.
Like you just meet people organically and then you see.
Yeah, for me
which-
it hasn't worked either. Yeah, for me.
Yeah. Okay, back to the video now. I think that was an interruption. A great idea that came after we finished recording. So, yeah. Okay, how are you feeling?
I love it.
So, do you see how relaxed you are? Like they were worried that they were going to be uptight the whole time. I told you, they're both relaxed. They were like this at the beginning, like rehearsing the
This is my ballet
ballet
posture.
training,
Yes.
to posture. Yes. Anyway, but it was an absolute pleasure
It was
to
amazing.
have you both here today in the channel, despite the cold weather, but the nice blanket
No,
is
this is
insistent.
amazing.
Yeah, so
Thank
it
you.
would be great to have you both again. Well, if you're going back to Athens soon, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that will not happen, but if you come back,
I'm not going anywhere.
you're not going anywhere. Well, I am going to Chile, briefly. I may upload things from Chile anyway, so guys, don't be too stressed about it. But if you liked the whole conversation, the video, give it a like. Leave comments. I'm very interested to see if you have opinions, whether you are British from an English-speaking country. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with what was said. If you're Greek, you will comment anyway, I'm sure. But yeah, leave all the questions that you might have or share experiences that you may find relatable for the rest of the people or things we
And
said.
I think like a disclaimer is that we should make is that sometimes Greeks get very passionate about their own way of doing things. But actually, as Tihon mentioned, there is no like right or wrong way of approaching things. It's just like different ways of and things that come like from history, and there are a lot of like so
we all feel life
take everything
differently.
with a grain of salt.
Yeah. We all feel life differently. That doesn't mean that
And
there's a right way of doing
A
it.
lot of times we feel like what is right is what is like what we've been used to.
Of
It's
course.
another like huge issue.
Of course, like if you strongly believe, or better, if the only thing you've seen your whole life is something,
Yes.
then you think that that's the only way or that's the correct way,
Exactly.
and that's which is why it's good, to have these conversations in which we are from different cultures. We live in a culture that's different from the two cultures we are here on this couch, and we discover things because we discover valuable things that we can integrate in our lives or whatever. So so as I said, it would be great to have you again if you are keen on
Thank you,
participating.
Of course, I accept the invitation.
Okay, well, okay, it will happen it seems. So just stay tuned. If you like this, as I said, give it a like, subscribe, share it with your friends, do whatever you want, and till
We'll
next
see
time.
you next time.
Bye.